goes next to the inside. After that is Where's Jordan, then it's Classy Individual. Inside of that, Teddy Time into the final 150. Born Force at 31-1, so game. Outside of that is Buy Me a Bond. Inside is Norco. It is Born Force. Born Force did it at 31-1.
Hello all, and welcome back to the Blind Horse Project podcast. For those of you just joining, the Blind Horse Project aims to bring awareness and education about our equine friends after they lose their eyesight. In many rescues across the USA, if a horse is brought in that is blind, they are immediately put down without thought of rehabilitation or being put back to work. Similarly, most equine boarding facilities, which is how the majority of people house their horses, do not accept blind horses for board. And oftentimes, when an owner's beloved horse goes blind, the first thing that they hear from the professionals and the people around them is often the recommendation to put their horse down. The Blind Horse Project aims to bring the happy, actual reality to light in the public eye, that our horses can far more easily adjust and thrive than we give them credit for. We argue that our horses do not need to be euthanized after they lose their eyesight, and that once adjusted, our blind horses can come back to work as family horses, as competition horses, and even as therapy horses. We argue this by bringing the little-known but large community of blind horse owners into the limelight and give them a platform to share their journeys with the world. This is the Blind Horse Project. And today we are joined by Ambassador and board member Tiff Fouks from Wisconsin, as she talks about her off-the-track thoroughbred rescue, Bond's Path Incorporated, as well as the blind thoroughbreds that changed her life.
Hi Tiff, thanks for joining us on the Blind Horse Project podcast today.
Hi Jesse, good to be here.
Awesome. So for our listeners, Tiff Fouks is one of our ambassadors and one of our board members, and she agreed to talk with us today about her rescue, her training program, and her journey with her blind horses. So we are really excited to hear more about that. So how are you doing today, Tiff?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a little bit rainy up here in Minnesota. It's been super rainy for about 2 days.
Yeah, we've had the same weather here, and I'm just across in Wisconsin, so...
Yep, that's fair. All right, so Tiff, if you wouldn't mind, so how did you decide to start your rescue, and what was kind of the journey around that?
I ended up starting Bond's Path Inc. as my rescue when I brought home my second off-the-track thoroughbred. His registered name is Buy Me a Bond, and it's all one word. I don't ask about how Jockey Club does these things. I just know what I get. When Bondy came home, he had 83 starts and had raced for a total of 8 years. And actually, in his last race, he went up against one of the blinds that I'm going to talk about, and the blind horse won. He obviously wasn't completely blind when he was racing, but I brought Bondy home, and I realized that there was a need for places for the retiring racehorses to find a soft landing and for them to be able to just have some downtime and heal from the track if they had any injuries or if they were just a little bit, over the edge with the track. So that was my goal with the rescue, was to give them a soft place to land and to be able to retrain them and then find them forever homes. So I saw that was a need, and I started Bond's Path, and I've got 4 off-the-track thoroughbreds total, and my third one was Born Force, who is my blind horse, and that was an absolute blessing to have Bond's Path because I could take him in and we could take our time.
That's awesome. Okay, so tell me more about Bond and your journey with him. So how did you end up coming to own him, and what was the journey there? Because I know Bond is one of your blinds, I believe.
Born is actually the blind. Bondy is fully sighted. So our journey together has been completely different than my journey with Born.
That would make sense. I apologize.
It's okay. A lot of people get them confused because their names are so close together.
Yeah, and obviously that happened there. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's focus on Born. My bad. And apply that same question.
With Born, like I had said earlier, he raced against Bondi in Bondi's last race, and Born actually won. And I had looked at my husband and said, I really want that gray horse, which was Born, when he comes off the track. And through a series of networking and knowing people at the track, I ended up meeting Larry Donlin, who was his owner and trainer. And when it was time for Born to retire, Larry gave me a call and said, he's ready. If you want him, come get him. So that started our journey with Born. And unbeknownst to Larry, he was blind in his left eye completely. And then he eventually went blind in his right. But we didn't know that or had any inkling that he was blind in his left eye until we got him home and got him into his stall. And then he accidentally ran into the stall post. So at that point, I'm furiously texting my vet going, hey, do you have anything open for me this week? I need you to come look at this horse's eye. And thankfully she did. And she came out and she said, yeah, he's definitely blind in that left eye. And he looks like he's got uveitis in his right. So let's treat that. And we started treating that, got a fly mask on him that has a high UV protection just so that we could try to protect and save whatever we could of his vision. And eventually Born did end up going blind in his right eye too, but that was over time. And quite honestly, he hasn't had a uveitis flare-up since we brought him home, which is awesome. I was expecting he was going to have, a few flare-ups before we got things under control.
Okay, so that's really interesting. Okay, so it's also really interesting that they didn't realize at the track that he was completely blind on one eye. Like Born had to have been super level-headed through the process. How was he transitioning for you?
He really was super level-headed at the track. He, there was some signs where he would tip his head into the rail and stuff so that he could see out of his eye when he was racing. He did amazing. And transitioning for us, we really didn't realize that he had gone completely blind in his right eye until we had the vet out to look at it again. And she was like, yeah, he doesn't see anything out of that eye either. And whether you believe in it or not, I have an animal communicator that I really absolutely love. And I had called her and I hadn't told her anything about the blindness stuff. And she came back to me and said, yeah, Born says it was just like a curtain closing, and that's how his right eye went completely blind. And unbeknownst to us, he transitioned beautifully. He didn't put a foot out of step. He was always very level-headed, still is. He's really familiar with his paddock. He listens for the other horses' hoofbeats, and he's got 5 other paddock mates that are all sighted, one of them being a miniature donkey. I guess when we really started looking at the fact that he was going to go blind in that right eye, we started putting bells on my Bondi man and kind of gave him some sort of noise so that Born would know where he was. And today, Born doesn't need any of that. He just listens for the hoof beats. He knows exactly where his round bale feeder is. He knows exactly where his troughs are. He knows exactly where all of the things in the paddock that he can run into are. And he navigates beautifully.
So that is really, really cool. It's and it's it just kind of how we talk to people that come and contact the Blind Horse Project and say, well, how do horses transition? Well, it's honestly a wide range. Some horses take it really hard emotionally at first, and some, like Born, just kind of, you wouldn't even know any better. So do you have any other blinds in your rescue at all?
I have a miniature gelding. He was a stallion that is missing his left eye that we've had forever and a day. We got him as a yearling, and about 13 years ago, he got kicked in the face and ended up losing his left eye. He transitioned beautifully too. A couple of years ago, I had him gelded, and he's just been absolutely a dream also. And with the miniature gelding, Justin actually prefers you to approach him on his blind side. He gets a little bit more nervous when you approach him on his seeing side.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, so any other cool quirks between Justin and or Born that you want to share with our viewers as well?
Born really took to voice commands from the start. I really started with him the second that I figured that he was blind, and worked with him on things like Born, come, fetch, gate, stop, just a whole slew of commands. He can actually be out in the back of our pasture, and the sighted horses will come in for the evening, and he'll be left out at the back of the pasture. I can literally call him in from the back of the pasture, telling him left, right, fence, stop, go forward, straight, and I can get him to come all the way to the paddock gate so that I don't have to walk out to the back of the pasture to get him.
Wow, that is really, really super cool. I'd love to see video of that, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, Tiff, how did you find the Blind Horse Project?
I actually found the Blind Horse Project because it came across my Facebook feed. I didn't know anything about it. It just randomly came across my Facebook feed. I wasn't looking for anything having to do with blind horses on Facebook, but it came across my feed, and I figured I would make a post and introduce myself and Born, and it was really great because Amber, one of our leaders, she reached out immediately, and I got on a group chat with you and her and Callie, and it took off from there, and it was awesome to be able to see a community building that gives people with blind or visually impaired horses a place to reach out and have some conversation and figure out what next steps are, and just have a sounding board. It really was a great find on Facebook.
I know that we are really, really happy and excited to have you too, Tiff. Yeah, we're excited to see where this project goes, and our goal is to help as many people as we can with these horses and change the overall perspective of them as well. So do you have any final words for our listeners? Any kind of messages that you can tell somebody that has just started owning a blind horse and just doesn't know, like, what do I do? How do I go from here? That kind of a deal?
My first piece of advice would be to breathe. I know that when we first found out that Born was blind, I panicked, and I tried to do all the research I could, and I wasn't finding any resources, and I needed something, so I just took a step back, and I took a breath, and I realized that this is something that can be worked through, and it can be good. It doesn't necessarily have to be a scary prospect. It's just about taking time and having patience and building a relationship with your horse. And that would be my advice to people that are starting this journey with their animals.
And that is absolutely beautiful, Tiff. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I think we're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day, Tiff.
Thanks, Jessie. You too.
And thanks to our listeners for tuning in. For more information on the Blind Horse Project, feel free to take a look at our other socials, including TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you would like to submit a journey for the podcast or a video highlight, or if you are interested in joining the Ambassador Program, email us at theblindhorseproject@aol.com. Thanks, everyone.